What's up, everyone? Dr. D here with another episode of Dr. D's DDR for Dummies. This is going to be episode 2, and it's going to be titled Feel Good, Play Good. In the last episode, we talked about the difference between mental game and physical game. To briefly recap, if you haven't already watched it, it's basically how the two battles you're going to be constantly fighting yourself with is improving your mental game and making sure that your physical game is keeping up with your mental game so that they're working in tandem and they can benefit you in your success. Now, this episode is titled Feel Good, Play Good because I'm going to stress the importance of feeling good in general will always lead to you playing good. As we also touched on in last episode, sometimes you just don't have enough time to get to the arcade. I was reading the comments. Some people, they don't have that many hours to get to the arcade each week, so they gotta maximize the amount of time that they do have when they're actually playing the game. And this episode is going to help you with that. So I always say this. It's been my motto for a long time, and I've told people off the cuff randomly here and there, and it's one of the tips I've been sharing, but I want to go into a lot of detail in this episode. And I always say, feel good, play good. And I'd say, what does that mean? But it's pretty clear what that means. The better you feel, the more likely you're going to be playing good that day. So all you got to make sure is that you are maximizing how good you feel that day before you play. I'll be talking about what are some tips and tricks on how to make sure that you're feeling good before you go to the arcade for your session. This is actually something that I still fight with today. Even though I know the correct advice and the right tips, I still struggle with it because, all of us struggle with it. We have our own lives, we have our own work, we have school, some of us. We all have our own things to do, and it does get in the way of maximizing our play potential. So let's get started with what are the best ways to make sure that we're feeling good before we go play. And the number one thing is sleep. Yeah, I know, shocker. Your parents tell you that before you go to sleep, and so do your school teachers when you're young, and everyone knows that you don't want to go to sleep, or so you don't want to go to work with a lack of sleep, and the same way you don't want to go play DDR with a lack of sleep. You want to get as much sleep as you can the night before. You want to get good sleep. You don't want to be waking up in the middle of the night. You don't want to be, feeling fatigued when you wake up. You want to get enough sleep that when you wake up, you feel refreshed. You feel that you can do anything this day. How many hours that is going to depend on you personally, but I'd recommend at least a good 8 hours of sleep, more if possible. And if you feel well rested in the morning, that's the first step to knowing that you're going to feel good when you go to play. But we can't just go play when we wake up. Of course not. At least I can't. I've seen people that can, but my next advice is all about eating. So sleep is number one, but eating is number two. I, for one, cannot play on an empty stomach. A lot of people can't. You wake up, you're hungry, your body needs food, your body needs energy, and without energy, you're not going to perform well. So you need the sleep, and you need to eat. But eating is complicated. How much do we eat? What do we eat? How long do we wait before we go to play? I'm going to answer those all right now. As for what do we eat, that's going to largely depend on many factors, but I can tell you this from experience. What food you eat does matter. It does. And yeah, the more healthy you eat, probably the better you're going to play that day. Again, most of these episodes I'm going to be giving you my personal experience, so I hope you take that with a grain of salt. But for sure, if I'm going to go play for the day, if I were to say eat pizza, which is my favorite food, but if I were to eat that before I go play, I will feel and play awful. It sucks, I know. Otherwise I'd eat it all the time. But I can't. I can't eat it before I go play. I'm not sure. I'm not a dietitianary, if that's even a word, and I can't tell you why, but I can tell you that whenever I eat junk food, we're talking fast food, we're talking pizza, we're talking something really greasy. Whenever I eat this kind of food and I try to play later in the day, it never works well. It never does. So what should you eat? Well, I've experimented with lots of different kinds of things. Protein is pretty important, I think. Eating until you're full is pretty important. So say like a steak meal, like if you were to have a nice steak before you play, maybe put in some veggies with it, that's pretty good. The food that I usually eat, and I eat it pretty much like 5 times a week, but I love to eat curry. Now, that might not be as popular or even available in where you live, and that's fine if it's not. I don't think it's the number one food to eat before you play, but I'm just telling you from my experience, that's what I like to eat. If I'm going to go play, I like to get some curry. So we're talking rice with the curry sauce, usually an egg on top, and some vegetables mixed in. Curry's usually my go-to if I know I'm going to be playing later in the day, but I've done other things. Cereal's not a bad option, though sometimes when I eat cereal, I consider it a light food. You don't feel very full after you eat it. So, which brings me to, you want to make sure that you're full after you eat. You don't want to have like the feeling that you want a snack or like, you're missing something. You want to eat until you're content. If you're content after you eat, you've probably eaten well, and as long as you didn't eat like completely awful, atrocious food for you, you should be on the right track to doing that. Definitely try to get some not vegetables. Try to get some fruit in. I try to get some bananas, maybe some pineapples, apples, kiwis, all this kind of fruit, whatever you like. Try to get some fruit in before a session, and a little bit of protein, unless you're a vegetarian. I don't know many DDR players or ITG players that are vegetarian, actually, now that I think of it, but that's off on a different tangent. But yeah, definitely eat something that is considered healthy and good for you, and something that you personally enjoy. Make sure that you're full after you eat, and you're on the right track. Alright, so now that we know what to eat, how long should you wait before you actually play? Again, this is going to vary between people to people, but I can tell you from experience, I can't just eat and play. That's not possible. It's not going to happen. If I were to eat right now and then go try to step on a DDR machine, it ain't going to work. It's not going to feel well. You need to give your body some time to digest. It varies from person to person, but personally, usually if I'm going to be playing, my play schedule is usually on a typical day is 6 p.m. Now for my lunch, I will usually eat around 12:30. I tend to eat 4 to 6 hours before I play. Now, I've experimented, like maybe on an afternoon play on the weekend, 2 or 3 hours. And I'd say that's about the limit. You want to do at least 2 or 3 hours minimum, but from my experience, I prefer 4 or 5 hours between eating and playing. The reason why is because if you try to play immediately after, your body is still working on digesting that food. You can kind of feel bloated when you play. You can feel that, you're not ready to really give your full physical exertion, which is pretty important to do when you're trying to improve and get better at DDR. So you absolutely need to give yourself some time to digest before you play. And if it's not clear yet, you got to plan like a day in advance every time you go play. It's got to be in the back of your mind. You can't just say that, oh yeah, I think I'll go play tomorrow, 3 o'clock. Maybe you want to say that, but you can't just think that. You have to say, okay, I'm going to play tomorrow at 3 o'clock. So that means that tonight I should sleep at this time so I get at least 8 hours of sleep. And when I get 8 hours of sleep, I'll wake up around 10 a.m. And 10 a.m. is the perfect time because then I can eat and I can digest for 5 hours and then I can go play. You can't just think about going to play. You have to think about, how does your sleep mix in with this? How does your eat mix in with this? What food do you have available? Maybe you need to go maybe you love to get a certain food, but they stop serving at a certain time. Maybe it's a breakfast shop near your house or something like that. So does that affect it? You have to consider, when are you going to play tomorrow? When should you sleep tonight? How long should you sleep for? When you wake up, when should you eat? And when you're eating, how much should you eat? And then finally, how long should you wait before you play? You have to put all of this in your mind. It sounds tedious. It sounds like not so. I don't know. I know a lot of people don't really like to put a lot of thought into this, but I'm always thinking about this kind of thing. I'm about to go play in an hour, and I had to think about how much sleep am I going to get beforehand? When do I have to eat? All of these things have to go in my mind before I go play, because this is all to ensure what the title of this video is: feel good, play good. Now, like I said, everyone's different. Some people feel great in conditions that I would consider are quite unusual, and if you're one of those people, more power to you. But you should have enough experience that you've been to the arcade some days and you've felt, wow, I feel really great. Great. Analyze it. What made you feel so great? What did you do differently today that was different from a different play session where you didn't feel good? So figure out the key factors that are leading you to feel great. And if you can replicate them, do it. So I gave you my anecdote of what makes me usually feel good with eating and sleeping. But everyone's going to be different. And the best way that you can do it is think about a time where you were great. And think about what were the decisions that day that led you to feeling great. Alright? Okay, let me check my notes real quick. So, moving on from eating and sleeping, which we're already over 10 minutes on, because it's really an important topic, and I hope that you took something away from that. The next thing we're going to talk about is what you're wearing. And I think most people have a good idea of what to wear when they go play, and we're going to talk a little bit about that, but in general, you got to wear what makes you comfortable. I could say that you should wear this and this and this, but if you're not comfortable wearing that, don't wear it. You should be comfortable when you're playing. You shouldn't wear a tight-fitting Speedo because someone said that will make you play the best. If you're not comfortable wearing that, and it's going to be in the back of your mind that you're uncomfortable while you're playing in that, don't wear something like that. If someone says you should be wearing something really loose-fitting, but when you're playing in really loose-fitting shorts, you can feel the fabric rubbing against your legs and it's making you uncomfortable, don't wear it. I can't tell you specifically what you should wear. You need to wear what makes you the most comfortable. With that said, for a shirt, I prefer something that is sweat absorbent, because if you're playing the way I do and you're trying to do this for exercise purposes, you're going to be sweating a lot, and you're going to want a shirt that can absorb a lot of that sweat. I always bring 2 shirts to the arcade. I play a shirt for what I'm going to play in, and when I'm done and I'm drenched in sweat, I have a shirt that I'm going to leave with. That's a personal preference, and if you want to try that, you can. I want to, if we're going to talk intimately, yes, you should be wearing underwear that's going to make you comfortable. You don't want to be wearing something too tight and constricting, especially if you're a guy. And you don't want to be wearing something that is, this is going to make you uncomfortable. I prefer boxer or boxer briefs. And for shorts, I also prefer something that is loose but not too loose. Something that gives my legs enough room to breathe, but nothing that's going to be too loose that it's very noticeable every time I'm stepping. And of course you want some probably sports socks, and then the shoes. The shoes are probably the most important part. They're so important. I will have a different episode dedicated to just talking about shoes. But for now, just know that all the clothes that you should be wearing, they should be the most comfortable thing that you know when you're doing athletic endeavors, that you're the most comfortable wearing these kind of things. So that is what I want to talk about for what you're wearing. People have other things that they like to bring. Maybe you like to bring a towel for your sweat. That's perfectly fine. I've seen people do some of the sweat headbands, or is that what they're called? If that makes you comfortable, that's fine. But just in the end of the day, you got to pick whatever makes you most comfortable. And sometimes to achieve this, you want to bring your clothes with you to the arcade, or if you're playing at home, that's way easier as well. Because, I bring extra shirts, I bring extra socks, I bring whatever I don't want to be wearing outside, but I want to do that. And I have a lot to talk about with the shoe episode, but this episode's already almost 15 minutes, and we are not even done yet. So, shoe episode coming in the future. Alright, now that we got the eating, the wearing, and the sleeping done, let's talk about hydration, because hydration is extremely, extremely important. Speaking about hydration, I think I need some water right now. 1 second. trying to do this with one hand. G Fuel. Is it in you? That's something I've been testing out lately. I'll give you a review on it in the future. So, hydration. You want to make sure you're drinking water before, during, and after all of your sessions. You should hydrate yourself plenty before you go play, because when you start playing, if you've hydrated yourself properly, you should start sweating after you've exerted some energy while you're playing. And you're going to have to keep drinking water to make sure that you keep the sweat going and flowing through your body. If you don't drink enough, you're going to notice that you're not going to feel as good as if you drank a lot. I would say experiment with it, but you should never do it. You need to hydrate yourself. It's really important. Drink water throughout the day. Make a conscious effort to put it in your mind, knowing that every time you go to every time you're going to go play, which you should be drinking a lot of water anyways. And if you want to know my recommended water intake, I've cut it down in the recent years, but you might not even believe me, but I shit you not that in the past, when I had the DDR focused lifestyle, I used to drink 6 liters of water a day. I would drink around 2 liters in my morning, afternoon. When I went to play DDR, I would drink about 4 liters that session alone. In total, I would drink between 6 to 7 liters of water any day that I was going to go play DDR. It was pretty outrageous. Now I try to do at least like 4 liters a day. You're going to want to drink a good liter or more before you go play. During your play session, you want to drink at least 1 to 1.5 liters, and it is going to greatly depend on how much you're playing. And of course, you're going to want to keep yourself hydrated after the fact of you playing. You can you can supplement with some sports drinks, so Gatorade or Propel. If you're in Asia, there's Pocari Sweat, there's Super Supao. There's a lot of different kinds of sports drinks, and you can supplement with that. Just make sure that you're keeping yourself hydrated, and yeah, you'll notice a big difference. And yes, if you notice a cut at the one part, yeah, the video ran out of film, but we gotta keep chugging along. We're almost done with this episode, so the next thing we're gonna talk about is to keep yourself comfortable. You're never gonna want to overdo it. So by that I just mean when you're playing, if your goal for that day is, say that I want to pass this 17, I want to AAA this 15. If you're not feeling it, don't do it. Don't. It's not worth it. If you gotta force yourself, if you gotta push yourself, if you gotta push yourself out of the comfort zone to force a score that you're not comfortable getting that day, don't do it. You want to make sure that whatever you're playing, you're comfortable playing it. Of course, you want to be pushing yourself and trying to, improve and whatever, but you also don't want to overdo it, because that's going to lead into my next point, because you got to have fun. You got to have fun. If you're not having fun when you're playing, you're not doing this right. You're not going to want to come back. You're not going to want to have good feelings, emotions, and thoughts associated with playing. So this goes a long way into making sure that you're feeling good and playing good. If you feel good about what you're doing, you're going to notice that you're going to be playing better as well. Make sure you have a clear mind when you're there, that you're focused, you have your goals, but just besides goals, just make sure you're having fun. Make sure that it's something you want to be doing in that moment and that you're glad you're there. And that's it. So, to recap, to make sure you feel good and play good, you will have better sessions. You want better sessions because we might not be able to get that many sessions in a week. And even if you do get a lot of sessions in, you want to maximize the potential of gains during those sessions. So make sure you get a lot of sleep. Make sure you eat right. Make sure you digest your food before you play. Make sure you're wearing something comfortable that you like to play in. Make sure that you keep yourself hydrated before, during, and after. Make sure that you are doing stuff that you like that day in terms of what you're playing, and have a clear mind, stay focused, and above all, have fun. All right, that's going to wrap it up for episode 2 of Dr. D's DDR for Dummies. Feel good and play good. I will be back again with episode 3 pretty soon. As always, let's have a discussion down below. I'm reading every single comment. I'm responding to comments that I feel want to be engaged with, and yeah, just continue the discussion on my Discord. The links are down below, and make sure, if you have not already, subscribe to my YouTube channel. And if you want to make sure that you get these videos notified to you as soon as I make them available live, just turn on that little bell. It's the notification bell, they call it, and you will get a push notification every time I upload a video. And I highly recommend joining my Discord, because I'm probably going to start posting these videos there maybe a little bit earlier. So if you want to kind of get a sneak peek, because I always upload them unlisted first, and I kind of want to test out making them public to just my Discord audience, so that if I screwed up on the video royally, they can hurry up and correct it before I make it live for everyone else. But hey, usually I think the video will be just fine, so if you want to catch it earlier, go there. Alright, time's important. I don't want to waste any more of your time, but I do hope that the time you spent with me today is a little bit helpful and beneficial. We'll see you again soon. Thanks for watching, and peace.